Enter the Dragon. Why is it so good? Why is it so classic? Well, why do we think it is? We're going to talk about that in just a second. Hey guys, what's up? This is Chat Stew, where we talk about movies, games, music, life, whatever. I'm Joe.
And I'm Rick.
I'm Will.
And today we're going to be talking about the 1973 martial arts movie classic Enter the Dragon, starring Bruce Lee. And, again, why we think this movie is so good. Why is it a martial arts classic or just a classic in general? So what's this movie about? Again, it stars Bruce Lee. I think it's categorized as a crime drama.
It's a crime drama.
Yeah, crime drama. And Bruce Lee is a member of the Shaolin Temple, student there, and he basically gets recruited by the British, some British government agency.
Basically,
British or CIA or both, or a connection of both.
Yeah, he gets recruited by a government agency to infiltrate Han's Island. Han is the villain in the film, and he holds these martial arts tournaments on his private island, and they suspect that he's into other things, so they want to send him in undercover to go check him out and see if he finds anything fishy going on, and if so, to report back so that they can go in and bust up the operation. Did I miss anything as far as like what the story's about?
You're pretty much on point. I mean, the movie starts off, it's on the area where Bruce Lee is at. He's on his in the Shaolin Temple. It kind of starts off showing that what Bruce Lee's capable of and stuff like that. Shows him in his own little mini tournament in the Shaolin Temple, where he's fighting a guy that probably has like 30, 40 pounds on him. And
a fun fact.
Yeah.
The guy he's fighting is Sammo Hung, another Chinese.
That is Sammo Hung.
It is Sammo Hung.
There you go.
You know what?
Man.
How many years has that been? And I didn't pick that up on. Tip of the cap to you.
Same guy.
Yes, indeed. So he's fighting Sammo Hung. And
is he? It's Sammo Hung?
Yes.
I'm surprised you knew that.
Yeah.
And Rick, we were talking about this before. It's kind of good that they show that right off the bat because it establishes that Bruce Lee, knows how to handle himself.
He's no joke.
Yeah, he's no joke, and this is kind of why they're going to him in the first place. Kind of is what we were talking about there earlier. The villain Han was also a member of the same Shaolin Temple earlier. And he was, did he get kicked out or something like that?
They basically kicked him out for being going against the rules of the Shaolin Temple. Maybe they don't go exactly into how detailed that was, but I guess he broke some kind of rule.
Or he's just
so he's already a natural enemy of the Shaolin monks of the temple. So
he's using his skills that he learned at the Shaolin Temple to kind of take over the underworld, basically the crime world.
So obviously we're talking about Enter the Dragon, and Bruce Lee is the main character of the movie. You also have people like Roper, played by
John Saxon. Yeah. We got Williams, who's played by Jim
Carrey. Jim Kelly.
Jim Kelly. Not
Jim Kelly.
Can you imagine Jim Carrey playing Williams?
Yes, I can.
You can?
Yeah,
Just throw afro on Jim Carrey. He can wing that.
Bolo, who's played by Bolo Young. What about Roper and Williams? How do they fit into the story and what's their deal?
Well, you got Roper, who's basically like a degenerate gambler with a martial arts background of being able to handle himself and, take care of himself. And they kind of show you that where he's playing golf and he's, betting thousands of dollars on every stroke of golf that he's playing, so every swing he's betting and getting deeper and deeper in the hole.
You degenerate, you.
Williams, Will, what's Williams about?
Williams is like, he's like the Black Power guy. Like he's the one that represents, like, you know, during that time period to get confidence or whatever. A lot of black men took martial arts, and it seems like that's the character he's playing. Like that's the one he's trying to be, that representation for the black community that was needing to defend themselves at the time period. So
Again, yeah, this was a 1973 film, so
yeah,
a lot of those.
Oh, no.
yeah, like a lot of the racial tension and a lot of the,
Kind of like now.
Damn.
Mm.
Yeah, kind of. That's sad.
So much has changed since then.
Yeah. That essentially is Jim Kelly's character. Like he's the, I don't want to say token, but I mean he's definitely the representative of that strong.
Yeah, and he was capable. Even the fact that in the beginning, like, that when the cops stop him, I think he's got tickets to Hawaii because then from there the boat will ship out to China. Once, that shows that he financially, he has means. He can take care of himself, and then he also is a good fighter. So I think that was if you want to say again, it's the kind of the stereotypical Black Power figure, but it was also.
You didn't see that kind of character before, you needed,
right. He wasn't exaggerated to where you go, oh man.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a stereotype, but it also, like, even the fact that he's fighting cops, like when his introduction, it's like, take that, the man.
And Bolo. No, he's one of the villains. He's kind of like the mini boss before the big boss.
And then you had
Bolo Young was a professional Chinese bodybuilder before he got into acting. So
that's why he has the Chinese Hercules.
That's why he's just exactly, the Chinese Hercules. Yeah, he's just he did that and then got into acting, I believe. I'm not even sure about his martial arts background. I don't know if he really had martial arts background, or if people.
Definitely after that, I don't know what he practiced, but you see him training in martial arts later on. So.
No, I mean I remember when you see him the first time, he's like scowling when they're kind of showing up to the island, and you right off the bat, you're like, okay, that guy is not to be messed with. And then later, when they do start doing the fights and stuff, and he's squeezing the guards that failed in their security duties, and he's just killing everybody, and he's just like, oh my god, like I think they set him up good to where
very imposing,
you don't want to, you just dread if you have to fight that guy, and eventually it's going to come.
But he didn't have to say anything. I mean, just looking at him, he was imposing, and the way everybody treated him was like, okay, this is second in command or whatever he was, and that was enough. Like you knew that this was the guy that Han looked to do his dirty work.
Yeah, and he'll turn you into a taco. Yeah. Pretty easy to stay away from that guy.
What were you saying, Rick, before? It was something I kind of overlooked. Bruce Lee, obviously he gets recruited by the government and he agrees to go and track down Han. He's got reasons to track down Han because Han was part of his school, and we were going on and on about it. But then Bruce Lee's sort of backstory, his character's backstory, is another henchman to the main villain. Goes by O'Hara.
Yeah, so
and while these tournaments were going on, a lot of the goons would come into the mainland and just start trouble, run around and causing all kinds of stuff, and has a run-in with Bruce Lee's sister character in the movie, and that ends up going bad, and she ends up, they end up trying to take advantage of her, and she's not with it and takes her own life instead of going the other direction. And I think that's really Yeah, I think when Rick, you mentioned it before when we were talking, that that's really his main motivation for even going there in the first place, and taking down Han, and the whole operation is just kind of a secondary priority for him, because in his backstory they show him visiting the grave and all that kind of thing, and so that's kind of his main motivation, to go and get revenge for his sister, and everything else is kind of just comes after that.
Yeah, going over there is basically the icing on the cake, because I mean he's first of all getting revenge for his sister that died, which his probably order of the school being at the Shaolin Temple probably would prevent him from doing. Probably would frown upon that if he went and sought out revenge like that. So basically, he has this government agency saying, "Hey, come and help us stop this guy from selling drugs and killing people and all that kind of stuff." And this is the avenue that you can get in there to do it. So he's probably kind of licking his lips, like, "All right, well, I'll do this, but while I'm there, I'm going to make sure I get my guy that killed my sister."
Right. So let's talk about the fighting in this movie, and the you know, how impressionable and how great it was for its time. I remember, you know, and also, if you didn't know this, you're going to get to know this. Rick and I are brothers. Will is a real good friend of ours, and we always talk about movies, life, camera zooming in for some reason, music, everything. So
Will's the star, man.
Will, you're the star, man. You're the star.
Apparently, my camera wants me to be. Also,
Pay attention to this.
So, you know, we first got introduced to Bruce Lee from our mom. Would always, you know, rent martial arts films and things like that, and that was the first one that we got hip to. That was the first one that she showed us. And that just from there on, we just consumed as much martial arts films as possible. But I just remember being floored by it, and you know, reenacting the fighting, and just thinking it was the coolest thing that I had ever seen. Forgetting the technical part of it, you know, just me as a kid growing up watching it, just super impressed. And obviously nowadays the choreographing is on a different level. We talked about this earlier. It's a little bit more intense and things like that. But man, for its time, and I think it still holds up to this day. And a nice step away from the traditional kung fu format that we would see in every other movie. For like an hour, which is great too, and we'll talk about that some other time. But it was just kind of what I would learn to later is it was a refreshing change from that, and kind of set the precedence for what would be to come. So, what do you guys think about that? Have to say about the fighting?
Bruce Lee, like, I mean, what is there to say about this dude? Like, he's showing a style of kung fu in this movie that is new and is probably the beginning of mixed martial arts, like Jeet Kune Do. And to see him do that and the way he does it, it's very impactful. It's charismatic. It's powerful. Like, Bruce Lee couldn't have been more than 135 to maybe 150 on a cheat day.
135.
135. It was impressive. Like, everything he did was just like it was like powerful, just so powerful. And when you hear someone talk of like impact that the strikes had, and like to know that man was doing that in real life, it's impressive. Like, and it carried over into film. Like, that's hard to do, to have a physical style like that. It doesn't usually transfer to film. You know, correct me if I'm wrong, and anybody that sees this, like, to me, it's like, that's probably the to Bruce Lee's credit, is showing his style and his philosophy within that film. And it's just, it blows everybody away. I don't know anybody who hasn't seen that film, even if they don't like martial arts. They know they like Bruce Lee. So the fighting style is just premier. It's high level stuff. So the soundtrack is probably the best part of the movie. What do you think about it?
Yeah, the music Great stuff, man. Epic, epic, epic. The theme song, super powerful. To me, when that movie comes on, it's like The Lion King. You know, I perk up, and I'm all about it. So, the music. I believe all of the music was composed by Lalo Schifrin. He's a Argentinian dude. He was doing a lot of TV theme songs, TV music, movie theme songs, and music. Mission Impossible. He did all the stuff on Enter the Dragon. He's an older gentleman now, but he did even more recent stuff like the Rush Hour series. He was the guy that did the theme songs for that. Yeah, I mean, if you listen to it, it's super, super similar to Enter the Dragon.
Okay.
If you listen to it now, you'll be like, what? Like it's almost replicating Enter the Dragon.
So I got a question.
So,
I got a question. So you just basically, like you said, you just brought in the Rush Hour, like the same kind of thing as, and I think about it, I can hear kind of some of those similarities like you're talking about. So he's kind of doing those Asian style, like action sequences, or not even necessarily action sequences, but like just the back row movies, setting the scenes, kind of that kind of music that he's doing.
Yeah, if you ever get curious and visit like his stuff, he's got like jazz records, records of his own. Obviously for all the different shows and movies he's done, they've all had a different kind of sound. Obviously, Mission Impossible is way different than Enter the Dragon, but I really think he does that Hong Kong cinema funk, theme genre like really well. Like I think like that to me is the most memorable of his stuff, in my opinion.
So who was as I'm thinking about it, so who was doing the music for in the movie? Williams is in his room on the island. He has the headphones on. He's jazzing out. He's just tuning out and stuff like that. And he got
I don't even know that one. What is
funky beat going on. Is that the same guy, or is that something completely different?
No, I think that's him. Let's hold on. We can look that up. So this movie is filled with quotable lines. I know Rick and I, as we were growing up or as we were kids, we would quote, movies and shout movie lines to each other all the time. And we still do it to this day. Maybe that's just us. Will, do you do that at all? I don't know. Do you like around
your... what was that? Is done a lot, when he's...
what was that?
What was that?
What was that? When he's trying to talk to his student, and the biggest one is the art of fighting without fighting.
What is Williams' point of view on ghettos, Rick?
Ghettos are the same all over the world. They stink.
The whole, everything everyone says, again, not everybody freaks out about quoting lines,
or even like what does Kelly say when Han accuses him of being the guy outside? He's like, man,
I was outside, but I wasn't the only one.
Or he goes, and he also says, man, you come straight out of a comic book.
You come straight out of a comic book.
You come right out of a comic book.
Great stuff, man. It's just
straight into his form.
Yeah, straight into his form. Something I'd like to leave.
He does, doesn't he? He goes, all right, yeah.
Yeah. A human fly.
A human fly.
Which is a good song on the soundtrack too. So if you haven't, we're back to the music. If you haven't listened to the music on its own, give it a trip, and you'll enjoy yourself. So again, we love this movie. If you haven't seen it, you should. But I think it's impacted you know, the martial arts world itself, martial arts cinema. Will, we were chatting about this earlier. What were you mentioning about how far it reaches?
I think Enter the Dragon is probably one of the biggest movies ever in a lot of ways, because it not only brought Eastern cinema to Western audiences who, if you weren't hardcore into kung fu movies, that side of cinema on that side of the world, you didn't really know about it. Like, this introduced so many people to martial arts, and just the fact that this was going on. You had certain communities that were really into it. I was lucky enough to be in one of them, and watching kung fu movies and enjoying them. But this was an Americanized version of it, where it was more palatable for American audiences, and that's huge. Like, I don't know any martial artist that doesn't talk about this movie and how it impacted them, made them want to be a martial artist, and just.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think every kid after that movie at some point, was signed up for karate. We all took karate.
Anything
did you take karate, Will, when you were a kid?
Guilty as charged.
We took karate.
Yeah, I mean, it made you want to be a part of it. I don't know. It started a whole genre of action film. Like, they were still doing cowboy films during that time period.
And yes, I took mall karate. Okay,
it
was in a strip mall.
Oh, I took the mall karate. We didn't have Bruce Lee. If the American audiences probably didn't know who Bruce Lee was, or if he stayed in China and just did his thing there, would we have Jackie Chan? Would we have Jet Li? Would we have Chuck Norris? I mean, he introduced Chuck Norris. I mean, he made Chuck Norris popular. I mean, he might have found his way into the Hollywood market some way or somehow. He had the talent to do so, but he definitely got a boost from Bruce Lee.
And you had mentioned that Bruce Lee was doing a lot of films prior to that in China, and this was his first American film. And sadly, he passed away before it came out, before it was released. So,
right, the it factor, whatever you want to call that people have that make people want to watch them. Bruce Lee had that in folds. Like, even watching interviews of him, I mean, you just sit there and you just want to hear what the guy has to say. So, and it translates into his fighting, like his idea of expression and absorbing different fighting styles and making Jeet Kune Do, which was his baby, his fighting style, making it grow and fit the person, that was revolutionary. Here's a thought: you wouldn't have mixed MMA without Bruce Lee, arguably. Like, you can debate that. Like, Bruce Lee is probably the father of the UFC or mixed martial arts or any of that. So that's why this movie is so important. Would you have Mortal Kombat? Like, that whole video game, Street Fighter, would you have these things without Bruce Lee doing that movie? Because it inspired so many people to branch out and be like, yeah, this stuff is marketable. It's not such a niche thing.
I think he was just, unfortunately, I mean, I think he was right at the point where he was about to master all of his crafts, and sure. Enter the Dragon was like the like showing of, like, he is almost perfect, like, with his martial arts, with his acting ability, with his productions and what he was trying to do. And it was just like, it's almost there, it's about to be there. And then, unfortunately, like he said, he passed away. But if it would have gone, like, just think, if Bruce Lee wouldn't died at, what did he die at, 35?
32, 33.
32 years old. So he died at 32 years old. Just think of about 8 more years of making movies, of making, mastering his craft, getting more polished on his acting and all that kind of stuff. Just think of what we would have now. So, I mean, it's just it's asinine to think that he wouldn't have continued to be more and more and more of an icon.
Yeah, he would have grown with it. He would have become, who knows, he would have got into drama. Bruce Lee probably would have been like a huge leading man for all we know, but he just died so young. You know, it's a shame. It really is.
All right. I mean, so you guys heard us talk about Enter the Dragon, why we love it, why we think it's one of the best martial arts movies to ever come out, and why it still holds up to today. We want to know your guys' thoughts too. I mean, let us know down below in the comments what you loved about the movie. If you don't like the movie, we want to know that too. What you remember about it? If you grew up with this film, what are your favorite parts and things like that, or any awesome quotes that we missed. So we want you guys to chime in and let us know your thoughts about it as well, because we know we're not the only ones who grew up loving this film. So
Hey, so I got one last thing. I mean, obviously we could spend about 2 hours talking about every single detail about this movie, all the fighting scenes, all the lines, all that kind of stuff. We could have broke that down, but obviously we don't want to have a 2 hour long video about talking about a movie that's less than 2 hours long.
And how badass the nunchuck scene is.
And exactly. But I do have a question. And speaking of that nunchuck scene, right before Bruce Lee...
Is this a bonus question?
This is a bonus question. Right before Bruce Lee acquires his nunchucks, the last person he beats down with the 2 fighting sticks, how many times does he hit that man? That's what I want to hear.
Oh yeah, he goes crazy bananas on that guy.
Yeah.
Let us know down below how many times that guy gets hit up. All right, I want to thank you guys for watching, and make sure that if you like what we're doing, that you hit the like button and subscribe and the notifications bell so you never miss an episode. I'm Joe.
I'm Rick.
I'm Will.
And this is Chat Stew. We'll catch you guys next time. All right.
What was that? Yeah,
Totally forgot what I was going to say.
All right.